Hey there, everybody in Serial Killer Country. My name is Brittany Ransom.
And my name is Brian Joyner.
And this is When Killers Get Caught, a podcast devoted to deep dives into the lives and psyches of the killers we love to learn about. Every week we discuss something new and interesting in the serial killer world, and then we discuss one well-known or lesser-known killer and go deep into their childhood, lives, methodology, and most importantly, how they got caught. And then, because most serial killer fans love to get a little spooked, Brian will lead us down the road of the paranormal or just something that he found to be particularly creepy this week. So in the name of love this February, I'll be speaking only about couples this month. And my first couple are the notorious Ken and Barbie Killers from Canada, Karla Hamolka and Paul Bernardo. And our topical situation this week is that New York City just discovered a new serial killer.
Yay! New serial killers.
Not really new, or more so, they found someone they were looking for. And it's pretty ridiculous because he lived in the same building
as his victims.
And it's been going on for a couple of years now.
It's crazy. All right. Oh, wait. First off, Yeah.
And if anyone notices that there's anything different this week, it's because we are both snowed in central Pennsylvania. So we're recording this remotely and hoping that it comes out all right.
Hopefully.
And as far as what Brian talks about, you know, he likes to keep that from us until it's time to spring on the spook.
Yes. So you're not getting that until the spook time.
But this guy, his name was it Kevin?
Yeah, Kevin Gavin.
Kevin Gavin. All right. And he killed 3 to 4 different elderly women?
Right. So there are 3 that they know of already, but they're looking into a 4th victim as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he killed...
Oh, and he's elderly too.
Yeah.
He's 66 years old.
So his whole building was an elderly community. So...
Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, so he killed them all in his own building.
Do we have explanations for the why yet?
Not at this moment, no. I think it's still an ongoing investigation, but...
Well, from what I read, it started in 2015, and the most recent one happened Friday. That would be January 29th, right?
Yes.
29th?
Yes.
Right. And the victims are all between 78 and 83, so that's pretty intense. I did read that the one woman who they're not sure whether it was murder or not. Well, okay, so the coroner said it was a heart attack. Well, correction. The police said it was a heart attack. The coroner said she had broken ribs and had been hit in the chest. So her daughter is like, yeah, that's definitely murder. But nobody else really listened to the kid. So that's why she thinks he's part of the...
So that might be the 4th one they're looking into then.
Yeah, that's the one they're looking into, because I feel like, how does an old lady get, a broken chest wall?
I mean, yeah. I was going to say, well, they're old, but, still.
No, I understand. People, they do have brittle bones as you get older, osteoporosis and things of that nature, but... And an interesting thing that I saw from people who were upset about this is that people had been asking for cameras at the facility for a really long time, and they believe that they would have been able to catch him a lot sooner had they had some level of security at the building.
Well, yeah, it says that they're adding 65 more cameras to the building, so maybe they had cameras already, but they didn't have enough.
Yeah, I guess they only had 4.
Oof.
I'm guessing probably just on like the front door, the back door, that sort of thing. But they need cameras on every floor. I mean, I know in my apartment building there are cameras at every elevator.
Yeah.
And all the entrances as well.
Okay.
So that way, at least they can have a visual of seeing where someone came into the building and what floor they got off on.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So apparently, Mr. Gavin was supposed to be like some type of handyman around the building as well.
Which explains why he would have access.
This is true. So his first victim was the one in 2015. Said he stabbed her in the neck with a steak knife.
That's, I guess, using what you have around you.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
awful.
I think all of his murders were using stuff that he found in the apartment or their houses.
And you told me when we were first just discussing bringing this up this week that these had to do with some sort of scam or money or something.
So no, he's actually, aside from being a murderer, he is also a scam artist.
Okay. So you think maybe they found out about the scams and he took them out? Maybe.
No.
I mean,
no, not at all.
No,
I think that
so
was
the
just
scams have nothing to do with the murder then.
Exactly.
Oh. Listen, it comes up all the time. Think of all of the different murders I've discussed so far. So many of them have ties to like fraud.
Right? It's crazy.
I don't know what this connection is, but it's a weird one. But either way, this is an ongoing investigation, and it fits the definition of a serial killer. That's for sure.
Absolutely. I mean, he does have the year gap. So he has one in 2015. Well, he has one in 2019 as well, and then another one, I guess, 2020. So he still has that.
Yeah, at least a month cooling off in between every killing. Though I suppose technically it counts at a different place since it was in a different apartment each time. But that's cutting that rule kind of close, I think.
There's a gray area somewhere.
Yeah, there always is. But what a weird thing. And that's not even counting the fact that, I mean, there's an unsolved serial murder situation going on Long Island in New York.
Oh, what? I didn't know about that.
You know about that? Yeah, they were looking for a missing woman and they found a mass grave a couple years ago. And they have now reopened those cases and they're trying to figure out like who killed all these women on Long Island. So they're still trying to figure out, I guess it's kind of a cold case situation now. And at one point they got a phone call that named one of the women that was in the mass grave.
Oh.
So who knows now? Yeah, they're buried at a beach in Long Island. So that's an ongoing thing. New York's got a lot going on for it. Going on in it.
Yeah. Lovely.
I guess you get a town of 8 million people, a lot of stuff pops off. But in regards, like I said, all this month, I will only be discussing couples and not just people who kill together couples, but in actual romantic partnerships. And I actually need to give a little bit of a trigger warning before I jump into this. The content today is going to contain discussion of sexual assaults against children. And I perfectly understand if that crosses the line for you and you don't want to listen. I will attempt to discuss it without going into any graphic detail, but I do think it's just responsible to give everybody a heads up. Underneath the info section on this podcast, we will give you the timestamps so you can skip over any discussion of Paul, Bernardo, and Karla Hamolka if this is just one of your limits.
Right.
So for anybody who doesn't know, or this is the first time you've ever heard of them, the Ken and Barbie Killers were a couple from Canada who assaulted and killed at least 3 different minors between 1990 and 1992. They were described this way in the newspapers because they were 2 platinum blonde, standardly attractive people, and the world was really confused as to why they would do crimes like this. On his own, Paul Bernardo was also known as the Scarborough Rapist, and together their crimes were known as the schoolgirl killings because all of them were teenage high school girls.
Oh my God. So he has 3 different names.
He does have multiple names. But before I discuss this monstrous couple that they were together, I kind of want to dive into who they were before they were serial killers. So Paul Bernardo was born August 27th, 1964 in Toronto, Ontario. He was born into a very wealthy and very dysfunctional family. His mother had been adopted by a wealthy Toronto attorney and given a relatively good life. Her name was Marilyn. His father, Kenneth Bernardo, was born to an English and Italian immigrant who created a successful marble and tile business, but his father was horribly abusive. And then Kenneth Bernardo left that family business and became an accountant. So like his own father, Kenneth Bernardo would then abuse his wife. Marilyn struggled with depression from that abuse, and she would begin having an extramarital affair with an old boyfriend. It would appear that Kenneth tolerated his wife's affair, And we can't entirely be sure of Paul Bernardo's parentage, but Kenneth is listed as the father on the birth certificate. Marilyn would have 2 children and then begin to withdraw from the relationship, actually sleeping in the basement away from her family.
Oh, wow. Damn.
Yeah. So you ever hear the statement, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree?
Yeah.
Kenneth Bernardo would get charged with child molestation in 1975 for touching a local child inappropriately, and his own daughter admitted that he had assaulted her in her childhood as well.
Oh.
This is more than likely the reason Kenneth didn't mind his wife being with somebody else.
Right, because he had other things to preoccupy him.
Yeah, pretty much. Despite the tumultuous childhood, Paul initially seemed unscathed by it. In the book called Lethal Marriage by Nick Pron, it said that Paul was a really happy child. He was a young boy who smiled a lot. They said he was very cute. He had little dimples, and that, everybody who saw him just wanted to pinch them. He was the perfect child, always polite, well-mannered, did well in school. He was a Boy Scout. That wasn't until he was about 16. Paul's parents had a really terrible fight, and Marilyn tells Paul, Kenneth isn't your real dad.
Oh, dropping a bomb on him like that. Oh my God, no.
From that point on, Paul is repulsed by his mother and refers to her as a slob and a whore.
Oof.
Yeah, so that relationship there is completely dead. He graduates from Sir Wilfrid Laurier Collegiate Institute, and he goes to work for Amway, which has a very tough sales culture, and it's believed that that really had a large effect on him in his early adult years. He bought every book and tape that he could get his hands on from those, rich and famous experts, and also those guys that teach you like how to get girls.
Right. Yeah. Uh-huh.
You remember those being very popular in the 90s.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Of course. Those lovely how to get a girlfriend book or how to get pickup
artist stuff.
Yes. Oh
this is God. What he was indulging in, these kinds of books, how to make money and get hot girls, things of that nature. I know. It's funny, but it's not funny because he used these techniques in a really bad way.
Yeah. No, it's terrible.
Apparently, Paul and his friends from Amway would practice these techniques on young women they met in bars, and they were actually really successful.
Are you serious?
By the time he attended the University of Toronto in Scarborough, Paul had developed these very dark sexual fantasies, and he was getting off on humiliating women in public. And at this point, he had physically abused every woman he had dated. So when he meets Karla Hamolka in October of 1987, the two of them are immediately sexually attracted to each other. And unlike every other woman he dated, Karla actually encouraged the sexual sadism on the women around him.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God.
Now, speaking of Karla, her early childhood wasn't as dramatic as Paul's. She was born Karla Leanne Homolka and to Dorothy and Carol Homolka, May 4th, 1970, in Port Credit, Ontario. She was the eldest of 2 siblings, or actually, I guess 3 siblings. Her other 2 siblings were named Logan and Tammy. Her father was a Czechoslovakian immigrant and traveling salesman with a serious drinking problem, and he was indeed abusive to both his wife and his children. The sisters originally kind of banded together through that, but I'm not entirely so sure how close they were because of something that goes on later, and I'll explain it when we get to it.
Okay.
But regardless of that, she had a pretty normal childhood. When she was young, she liked to draw. She was considered to be bright and very popular. She loved animals, and she would go into working with animals as her career. So the two of them meet at a Scarborough restaurant, October 17th, 1987, and they were both attending a convention in Toronto. She was 17 years old, and he was 23. The age of majority in Ontario is 18, very similar to the United States, and the age of consent was 14. Now, they met in October. He proposed to her December 24th of the same year. And just heads up, just in case you're still listening, I would say this is the part of the podcast where things are going to get a little sad and definitely very gross. Until Paul and Karla break up, it's pretty much like this for the rest of their relationship.
Okay.
I would Yeah.
Let's
Giving you a heads up.
let's get into it. I'm not ready,
Right,
but
you know how some people get together and it just makes them better?
yeah.
I would say that Paul and Karla made each other worse. Karla encouraged Paul's sadism, and Paul was just enthralled with how much the stuff seemed to kind of turn him on or turn her on. So the two of them very much fed off of each other in this way.
So they both fed each other's toxic tendencies, basically.
Exactly. Now, from 1987 to 1990, they're just a regular couple and they're dating. You know, he's working in the finance field and sales field, and she's working as she's working in a vet clinic. During that time, Paul sexually assaulted 11 women and attempted to assault several others. Most of them he met, stalking them when they got off of public transportation late at night. I'm sure to the Scarborough residents, it would seem like their police weren't doing a whole lot. But there were a couple of times that Paul actually almost got caught. After the third attack, the local police issued a public warning to all women traveling at night, especially those on buses. And then in May of 1988, he was hiding under a tree near a bus shelter, and a local cop who was set to patrol the area saw him and chased him, but Paul was able to evade capture. Then on October of 1988, one of his victims started screaming, and he got chased by some of the neighbors, because what he would do is he would see the girl at the bus stop and he would follow her to her home. And most of the assaults happen either in the girl's front yard or backyard of their own homes.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. What? Wow.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That hit me. That took me a second to hit me, but oh my God.
And they would last from anywhere from like 30 to 60 minutes. So extra traumatic. It happens at your own house. I can't imagine feeling safe in your neighborhood after that.
Right. And you're like so close to being like safe, like being into your own house, but.
And then someone grabs you right before you get home.
Yeah. It's, oh my God. Yeah.
It's every woman's nightmare.
That hurts.
And the thing is, they normally tell you, you know, oh, stranger danger isn't a big thing. But in this case, it definitely was. He was not attacking women he knew in real life. He was getting off on the fact that he was making these people feel unsafe. Right.
Just picking up random people and just causing their lives terror. All right. Sorry.
It's okay. Between May and September of 1990, the police had submitted roughly 130 different suspects' samples for DNA testing, and they would receive 2 reports that the person they were actually looking for was Paul Bernardo. The first one in June was called in by a bank employee, and I don't have a lot of details about this. I just wonder what he was doing at the bank that made somebody go, They did have a composite sketch from some of the victims, so I wonder if the bank teller just called it in based on the fact that he looked like the composite.
Maybe.
Now, the second one is really interesting. So the second call was from a woman named Tina Smirnis, and she is the wife of one of Paul's close friends. Now, Tina tells the detectives that Bernardo had actually been called in on a previous rape investigation, one in December of 1987, but he had never been interviewed. And she told him that he constantly bragged about his sex life to her husband and how much he liked analingus, rough sex, and anal sex. Things I never thought I'd say on the podcast, but here we go.
Well, you said them correctly and very scientifically, so hopefully nobody gets
too upset.
Yeah.
Now, because with Tina making this phone call, they bring in Alex Smirnis, and this dude is super awkward. Like during the interview, his phrasing is weird, it's stilted, and it actually left the detectives kind of unsure if they could take him seriously. But after cross-checking several different files, the detectives decide to bring in Paul Bernardo anyway. They interview him on November 20th, 1990, and it lasts about 35 minutes. And Bernardo actually voluntarily gives them samples for forensic testing. Now, when the detectives ask Bernardo, why do you think you're being investigated for these rapes? He goes, yeah, well, I guess I do look like the, composites. And the detectives, after that 35-minute interview, conclude that he is just too well-educated, well-adjusted, and congenial of a young man. He couldn't possibly be responsible for such vicious crimes.
What?
And this is a direct quote. He was far more credible than Alex Smirnis, who, with his awkward, strange way of speaking, might be trying to collect the reward.
Oh my God! What? No.
It's listen. It always happens, isn't it? The police always have the guy, and then they let him go.
I know, but he had another person tell him that this is the guy you're looking for as a bank teller, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just are just like, no, you guys aren't right. No. Look at this guy. This guy? No.
Right. So, they brought in the wrong Smirnis, because Tina was the one who was like, yeah, that dude's a creep. But they bring in her husband instead, and her husband's like, I don't know, like, maybe I don't want to tell on my friend.
What?
You know what I mean? So he's just weird and awkward. And so the police just assume that the Smirnises are trying to collect the reward for information about the rapist. So they think that they're just lying.
Why would you bring in the husband, though, when the wife is the one who told you about this?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
We'll get into the inquiry that happens about this at the end. But Paul is released the next day. He's released. And then the next day, he takes a trip with Karla, and he promises her that he is not the Scarborough rapist. So we move into the next chapter of their lives, which are them when they begin victimizing people together. In 1990, Bernardo is spending a large amount of time with the Homolka family, and they like him very much. He's engaged to the oldest daughter, but he flirts constantly with the youngest one, who's 15. He has not told anyone in the family that he lost his job as an accountant, and instead has been smuggling cigarettes across the U.S.-Canadian border to make money.
I mean, well, at least you're making some type of money, I guess.
Just, violating a whole lot of laws.
Yeah, just illegally. So, you throughout that whole time, you could have got a legit job, but, it's whatever, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So, but during this time that he's living with the Homolka family, the two of them are living together and they're engaged, he's kind of obsessed with Tammy Homolka, to the point where he is looking in her window, entering her room to masturbate while she sleeps.
Oh my God.
Karla even helps him peep by breaking the blinds to her sister's window so that Bernardo can see when he walks by at night.
What the fuck? I mean, the heck?
Oh, it gets worse. In July of 1990, he takes Tammy across the border to get beer for a party. And then when they come back, Bernardo tells Karla that they got drunk and began making out when they were across the border. And over that summer, he supplies Tammy and her friends with gifts, food, and sodas that, this is a direct quote too, had a film and a few white flecks on the top.
Oh my God.
So you just have to decide what drug you think that is he was supplying these children with. But mind you, Tammy and her friends were all 15 years old. And this man is now in his, he's almost 30. So
what the come on, dude. Okay. All right. I'm already not liking this.
I know. 6 months before this, Karla had stole an anesthetic agent called halothane from the clinic that she worked at. And the issue here was that apparently Paul was kind of hung up on the fact that when he met Karla, she wasn't a virgin. And so Karla decided that she was going to give her sister's virginity to Bernardo for a Christmas present.
How kind of her. She's such a sweet, loving girlfriend to do such a lovely, lovely thing. Oh my God.
So on December 23rd, they plied the sister with sleeping pills and alcohol. And when she was unconscious, Tammy then also administered the halothane on her sister's nose and mouth. So they triple got her sedated. And with their the parents upstairs, they videotaped themselves raping the girl in her basement bedroom.
Oh my God.
sometime during the event, Tammy began to vomit and aspirated on it. And they tried to revive her, and then they called 911. But not before hiding the evidence. They redressed her and moved her back into her bedroom. And a few hours later, she was pronounced dead at St. Catherine's General Hospital, never regaining consciousness.
Oh, my God.
Now, here's another part where I kind of poke at the police here and everyone else in the house, because they call 911, and of course they alert the family to it. And they also vacuum and wash clothes in the middle of the night. And despite the presence of a chemical burn on Tammy's face, the Niagara Regional Coroner and the Homolka family accept the couple's version of events, which is that it was an accidental death. She choked on her vomit after consuming too much alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I'm, what? Nope. No one looks into that one further. Closed case. Move it on. Here's a fun and not fun fact. Apparently, Karla would make other videos of her wearing her sister's clothes and pretending to be her.
Oh, my God.
They found those videotapes at the end. So that's also pretty grotesque.
Good night. Goodbye.
I'm sorry. But after that, they move out of the Homolka house to a house in Port de Lucie to allow her parents to cope with their grief. Port de Lucie is like a neighborhood in the city of St. Catharines. And almost instantly, as soon as they are permanently moved into St. Catharines, Paul rapes another girl. And this time she was 14, and it happened during the daytime. So it was almost like he was trying to do something not typical that he did in Scarborough.
Right.
I know.
But,
this is
yeah, I mean, he claims to his girlfriend that I'm not the rapist. Believe me.
Well, I think at this point it doesn't matter.
This is true.
Because she is 100% in on this.
Yeah.
So the two of them get married, and while working at a pet shop in this new city, Karla meets a 15-year-old girl. And on June 7th, 1981, Karla invites the girl to her home to hang out. They go shopping, they have dinner, and then she gives her a drink laced with a drug called Halcyon that she's stolen from her job. She then calls Bernardo and tells him, "Your wedding present is ready."
Mm-hmm.
They also film themselves assaulting this girl. And when only she doesn't die, she wakes up and she just believes that she's hungover because it's the first time she ever had alcohol. She didn't actually realize that she had been assaulted. This happens several more times. And actually, one night, Karla almost kills her by giving her too much of the drug. And she calls 911. And then she calls them back and is like, "Okay, never mind. We're good."
Oh, my God.
And they don't show up at the house. They don't show up at the
serious?
house. Nope. They do not send 911. One night in December, mind you, she met that girl in June. So in December, while they're all sober, Karla tries to pressure the teen to have sex with her husband, and the teen girl just gets upset and leaves and stops speaking to Karla from that point on. They don't ever mention her name in any news articles because she was underage when it happened, and I believe underage when they got caught. So they protected her identity.
Right, okay.
So we move into the next victim. Paul would be driving through Burlington and run across a 14-year-old girl named Leslie Mahaffey. And she had been locked out of her house after missing her curfew. And he makes a joke about breaking into her neighbors' houses. And she asks for a cigarette. And he says, "Sure, I have them in my car." And when they get to the car, he blindfolds her and forces her into the car. And drives home to tell his wife they have a new playmate. They, again, take turns torturing her and filming it and assaulting her there too. And there's even one moment during the video, something that they actually showed during the trial, where Paul says, "The next 2 hours are going to determine what I do to you. Right now, you're scoring perfect." Yeah.
Okay.
The quotes just. Unfortunately for Leslie, it would escalate when her blindfold slipped, and it would seem that that is when they decided to kill her. Bernardo claimed that Homolka gave her a lethal dose of Halcyon the next day. Homolka claimed that Bernardo strangled the girl. Regardless, they put her body in the basement and then planned for Karla's family to come visit for the day.
Oh my god. Let's go about our normal lives.
Yep, her mom, dad, and one other sister at this point, because the other one's gone, visit for the day. Then later on that night, the two of them decided the best way to handle this would be to dismember her and put her pieces in cement. And then Karla makes multiple trips to Lake Gibson, which is very close to the house. We're talking about like less than 5 kilometers, I believe it said.
No.
It's very close to their house.
Yeah.
So not only did she dump it, but she dumped it somewhere absolutely too close. And she wasn't the smartest, because the thought process here is if you're going to dump like a body with cement, you can't do it on the side of the lake. You probably need to like take a boat out in the middle or something.
Yeah.
Regardless, 2 weeks later, a father and son are fishing and see the pieces of cement resting against the shoreline. And they report it, and the police take it, and they're able to verify Leslie's identity because she had an orthodontic appliance in her mouth, which usually have serial numbers.
Right.
So within 2 weeks, they already know that this one girl has been killed. And I have to wonder, because maybe they were just scared, or maybe having the videos they took somehow sated their weird desires temporarily. But it's almost a year before they kill again. They go out, this time on purpose, looking to abduct someone. It's April 16th, 1992, just before Easter. They see a 15-year-old girl. She's leaving Catholic school. Actually, I think it was a Thursday before Good Friday. So it's like the last day of school before the long weekend. And they pull ahead of her into a parking lot, and Paul hides, and Karla looks at a map, and she's, pretending to be very confused. And when the 15-year-old girl, Kristen French, tries to help Karla, Paul ambushes her, and they throw her into the car. Over the next 3 days, they tape themselves assaulting Kristen. But unbeknownst to Karla and Paul, Kristen's parents knew right away that something was wrong. They knew that her route home from school was only 15 minutes. She was not the type of girl to just walk off and go somewhere without letting them know. Mm-hmm. And so they did not wait long at all before calling the police. And unbeknownst to Paul and Karla, they had left witnesses to the abduction. On top of that, her shoe was left at the site where she was grabbed. So within 24 hours, they have a very good picture. The police have a good picture of what happened here, that it was very serious, and they mobilize a task force to begin looking for her.
Awesome.
Right. This is when police are actually doing what they're supposed to do. So it's April 18th, and Paul is out buying pizza, and one of Paul's previous victims, named Carrie Patridge, saw him and reports him to the police. They had previously botched her case, but it put Paul on alert, because I think the two of them saw each other, and they would decide to kill Kristen the following morning before going to Easter dinner at Karla's family's house.
Oh my God.
I know, it's so nice. Police would find Kristen's body in a ditch on April 30th, 1982 in Burlington, which is about 45 minutes from St. Catharines, and strangely close to the cemetery where Leslie Mahaffey was buried. And I don't think that was accidental. Her hair had been cut off, and her body had been washed as a forensic countermeasure. There are many other situations where Karla encouraged Paul as the Scarborough rapist. Originally, it seemed like she didn't know, but in my opinion, I don't know that there wasn't a way that she knew. Like when they were going through the house, and I'll explain, it was incredible the process the police took to go through the house. But they found clippings of a sexual assault that happened in Hawaii when Paul and Karla were on their honeymoon. Like, he kept all of the news clippings, and it fit his general MO. So he raped someone right after they got married.
Oh my God.
Just how atrocious.
So lovely.
The police ultimately only confirmed 13 sexual assaults and at least 6 attempts, but I think that there were a lot more. Now, we kind of get into sort of the aftermath of the situation with the 2 teen girls. At this point, Homolka and Bernardo have been questioned by the police several different times. First in connection with the Scarborough rapist investigation, then with Tammy Homolka's death, with Bernardo stalking 3 different women, and that's all before the death of Kristen French. And every time they brought Paul in, previous cops just thought he was such an unlikely suspect. He's just so well-spoken. Well, that all changes May 12th, 1992. A sergeant and a constable interview Paul again. And then 3 days later, the Green Ribbon Task Force is created to investigate the murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French. Paul and Karla must have sensed the walls were kind of closing in on them because they applied to have their names changed legally from Bernardo and Homolka to Teal, which Paul Bernardo got from the movie, from a movie in 1988 where the villain was a serial killer. So it wasn't even that clever, but regardless.
Wait, did you get the movie? What it was?
It was called Criminal something. I didn't write it down all the way. I apparently missed one of the words. Give me a second, I'll find it.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It was called Criminal Law.
Oh yeah, never seen it. Okay.
No, it was filmed in Quebec, so it's probably in French.
Okay.
But it's a movie called Criminal Law, and it's about this attorney who defends a wealthy man. I guess, no, actually, the wealthy man is Kevin Bacon. Maybe we would have seen this.
Wait, yeah, Kevin Bacon in it.
It's a Kevin Bacon movie.
Of course,
yeah.
I would have seen it. Oh my goodness, I did not see it.
But either way, he gets that name from the villain who is played by Kevin Bacon. At the end of May in 1992, a man by the name of John Model, an acquaintance of Paul Bernardo, also reports Bernardo as a possible murder suspect.
Oh my God. They're coming for you, buddy.
So they're coming. In early December 1992, the Center of Forensic Science finally begins testing DNA samples provided by Paul Bernardo 3 years earlier.
Ooh.
I can only assume that Paul was starting to feel the stress here. He's being interviewed repeatedly, and he makes, I would say, a pretty big mistake. Because on December 27th, 1992, he would beat his wife, Karla Hamolka, with a flashlight, hitting her on the arms, legs, head, and face. Initially, she claimed she was in a car accident and went back to work on January 4th. But Karla's coworkers are skeptical, and someone actually called her parents, and her parents show up at her house on January 5th and physically remove her from home. They take her to the local hospital, St. Catherine's General Hospital. Her injuries are documented, and she gives a statement to the police, claiming she is a battered spouse and files charges against Bernardo.
There you go.
He's arrested and later released on his own recognizance. And Homolka moves in with her aunt and uncle in Brampton. I can only say the next section I would call the net begins to close in. 26 months after the samples had been submitted, Toronto police are informed that Paul Bernardo's DNA matches that of the Scarborough rapist, and they immediately place him on a 24-hour surveillance.
Nice.
The Metro Toronto Sexual Assault Squad investigates. They interview Homolka, and that happens February 9th, 1993. Despite telling them, despite telling her their suspicions about Bernardo, Homolka only concentrates on the fact that he abused her. Then later that night after the interview, she tells her aunt and uncle that her husband is the Scarborough rapist and that she was also involved in the rapes and murders of Leslie Mahaffey and Kristen French, and that they recorded them. The police simultaneously decide to reopen the investigation into Tammy Homolka's death. On February 11th, 1993, Karla meets with a Niagara Falls lawyer named George Walker, seeking full immunity from, in exchange for cooperation. And she gets placed under 24-hour surveillance too. On February 14th, George Walker meets with Murray Segal, who's the director of what's called the Crown Criminal Law Office in Canada. Walker tells essentially the equivalent of, like, for America, our DA, about the rapes and the videotapes. And Segal says, there's absolutely no way we can offer this girl full immunity. That's outrageous.
Yeah, like, I mean, I don't blame him. Like, she was involved in all of these.
Absolutely. So the Metro Sexual Assault Squad and the Green Ribbon Task Force arrest Bernardo on numerous charges on February 17th, 1933, and they obtain a search warrant. Now, because Bernardo's links to the murders are very weak, the warrant contained limitations. So no evidence that was not explicitly listed in the warrant could be removed from the property. And any videotape the police found had to be viewed in the house. Damage to the house would be kept to a minimum. The police were not allowed to tear down the walls to look for the tapes. The search of the house, including updated warrants, lasted 71 days.
Oh my God.
And the only tape they find is a very small segment of Karla Hamolka performing oral sex on the young girl that she took out that one night, the Jane Doe that they didn't mention in the papers. So on May 5th, 1993, her lawyer is informed that the government is going to offer her a 12-year sentence plea bargain, and she has 1 week to accept it. If declined, they would charge her with 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder, along with other crimes. Her attorney, with the wisdom that only you get from an attorney, he accepts on the spot. And then Homolka later agrees to it.
Smart.
Because he recognized this was the best deal she was going to get ever.
You ain't getting no better.
So on May 14th, the plea agreement is signed, and she begins giving her statements to the investigators about Paul. This plea bargain has been really criticized by many Canadians because Paul Bernardo's first defense lawyer, whose name was Ken Murray, withheld the videotapes for 17 months. Apparently, when Paul knew they were coming for him, he removed them from the house and gave them to his lawyer.
Really?
Yes, these were considered crucial evidence, and prosecutors say that they would have never agreed to a plea bargain if they had been able to see those tapes in the beginning. In fact, Murray was later charged with obstructing justice and faced a disciplinary hearing with the Law Society of Upper Canada. Like, he almost lost his ability to be an attorney.
I mean,
because of this.
Yeah, like, why would you even think that was an okay thing to do?
He was defending his but little jerk off.
No, but even as a lawyer, you cannot do that.
And you're not supposed to. And yeah, Karla testifies against him to get that 12-year sentence. Paul is given a life sentence with possibility of parole after 25 years, but a year later he was deemed a dangerous offender, which is apparently a very serious title given to certain criminals in Canada. He is still in jail, and despite being kept in isolation in every prison that he's ever been in, he has not had the best time. And anytime he's been around other inmates, he gets attacked.
I can see why.
Me too. I'm not entirely surprised. Now, in 2006, Bernardo would admit to 10 additional sexual assaults that happened in 1986 before he even met Karla Hamolka. So that time period where he was out there humiliating women and, using his pickup artist techniques, he was also raping women too. Interestingly enough, the gall, he was eligible for parole, I believe, in the early 2000s. And he applied for parole in both 2015 and 2018 and was denied. His lawyers don't think he'll ever actually get out of prison because of that dangerous offender title that's been added to his name.
Good. I hope he doesn't.
And an interesting fact is when he was given the psychopathy checklist, the same one that they gave to Eileen Wuornos in the States, he scored a 35 out of 40. Getting a 30 would deem you a psychopath. So he almost answered all of the questions like someone who is a psychopath would.
Oh my God. So no, that's okay. You can stay where you're at.
As for Karla's family, after learning that their eldest daughter was the reason why their youngest daughter died, it would believe it's Karla's mother would have to be hospitalized roughly every year around between Thanksgiving and Christmas time, which is the time period that her daughter was murdered. Her family has not done well with this. As for Karla, before she did her 12 years, they evaluated her extensively by professionals, and they've come up with more questions than answers. One of her therapists said she remains something of a diagnostic mystery. Despite her ability to present herself very well, there is a moral vacuity in her which is difficult, if not impossible, to explain, which to me sounds like Karla Hamolka is a bit of a sociopath. Apparently, trying to dig into this really highlighted the complexities and challenges of behavioral studies on women suspected of psychopathic traits, because so many of those traits are related to masculinity and maleness. The various different masks that the female psychopathic killer displays have to do more with the audience and the manipulation happening at that moment that will benefit the psychopath than the true nature of the person. So they never really get a full scope of who she is. Essentially, depending on who Karla is talking to, she is a completely different person. Not in a sense that she has multiple personalities, but that she sort of bends her will and her morality based on who she's talking to.
Right. Okay. So she
which makes her hard to diagnose.
I kind of want to say she's kind of like code switching a little bit.
Not quite, but a little bit. I think that's a really interesting thing just to think about. Somebody who you don't really ever know where you stand with that person.
Right. Yeah.
A man by the name of Dr. Graham Clancy, he's a forensic psychiatrist who was hired by Paul Bernardo's defense lawyer, offered an alternative theory, which I think you'll find very interesting, Brian.
Okay.
It's listed in his book called Invisible Darkness, which is about this case. And he says, direct quote, "She appears to be a classic example of hybristophilia, an individual sexually aroused by a partner's violent tendencies."
Come on.
It's funny how these things keep
it's just
cycling
lining
around
up
for us.
It's just lining up. It is, oh my God, like so serendipitous.
So a different psychiatrist thinks that Karla was aroused and turned on by the fact that her husband was a murderer and a rapist. And it seems like she was. I definitely don't buy that she was a battered woman who was forced to do these
No,
things.
no, she definitely helped him. She wanted to see that stuff happen.
So she was released and she relocated to Montreal. And 2006, she tried to change her name and they declined that. In 2007, she had a baby and moved to Antilles in the Caribbean so her child could have a normal life. And she had 2 other kids and she got married. She moved back to Canada and ended up in Quebec in 2016, where any attempts to talk to her about that time in her life are met with just straight anger. She will not talk to lawyers. She is not having it. Parents with children who are attending the same school as her kids actually tried to stop her from being able to even go to the school or attend even PTA meetings. But the school board ultimately supported Karla.
I mean,
as of January 2020, she lives in Salaberry de Valleyfield alone without her children or her husband. And interestingly enough, when Canadians were polled, 63% of them believe that they have the right to know where Karla Hamolka is living. 18% say she should get some kind of anonymity. And 18% pretty much said, maybe offer her some anonymity in about 50 years.
I mean, that's
which
sorry, go ahead.
I just thought it was funny.
I mean, that's she's kind of like a predator though. Right?
I wouldn't trust her around any children.
Exactly.
Especially not teenagers.
So what do you do with predators? You get to know where the hell they live. So I agree with people who are thinking that they should know where she lives so they can stay away from where she's at.
So you would be part of the 63%.
Damn right.
Now, the last thing I'm going to discuss is just what happened to the cops. So after Bernardo's 1995 conviction, the Ontario Lieutenant Governor appointed a man by the name of Archie Campbell to review the roles played by the police during the investigation. A year later, he released a report And he said that the lack of coordination, cooperation, and communications by police and other elements of the judicial system contributed to a serial predator falling through the cracks. And this is actually, I guess, a really positive thing that came from this horrible, horrible situation, because he recommended an automated case management system for the Ontario Police Services to use in investigations like these with homicide and sexual assaults. So Ontario happens to be the only place in the world with this type of computerized case management system, and it's called Power Case. And since 2002, all municipal police services in the Ontario Provincial Police have access to it, which allows them to access anything from any case that has happened in Ontario.
Oh, wow.
It's the kind of thing that we are trying to do in America and failing miserably at it.
One day.
Maybe one day we can learn from our neighbors to the north, because that would be a really useful tool to essentially link up all United States police.
Right, yeah.
But as of right now, only Ontario has it. That is where I leave you with my story.
Oh, wow.
I know.
It was a horrible, horrible story, but you told it so great.
Oh, you're very nice. This was really hard for me. This was hard for me to research. This was hard for me to write. I pushed it off as long as possible. I didn't even finish it until halfway through today. Children being harmed just hits me so deep. I work with kids. I've worked with kids for most of my life. I can't imagine doing the kinds of things or harming kids in this way.
Yeah, I feel you 100% there, because I do have children. And it's just it's scary, like, to think about that kind of stuff. Like,
and anytime you do anything, I think about the fact that all of the children who I work with, their parents have to put their trust in a bunch of strangers.
Exactly.
Watching their children all the time.
Exactly.
In this case, he was attacking teenagers and young adults when they were just walking home. But
I mean, teachers have background checks too, though. So
we do. But unfortunately, that doesn't stop people who've never harmed before. The background check only exposes people who've gotten in trouble. So it's an unsteady connection for both of us. We're worried about the parents, and the parents are worried about us, and everybody's trying their best to make sure we do right by the kids.
Right. Everybody's trying to trust each other, but we're like, I got my eye on you, buddy.
Oh, yeah, because part of my job is also monitoring the children and making sure nothing bad is happening to them at their homes.
Right.
So it's vice versa. They're keeping an eye on us, and we're keeping an eye on you. So hopefully the checks and balances make sure that nobody ever falls through the cracks and kids don't get hurt.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
But maybe you can turn the tide and make the rest of this podcast a little less sad, Brian.
Oh, I'm hoping this story helps everybody get through what they just listened to, because I think it'll help a little bit. It'll give you...
All right. I'm here for it.
Okay. So this story is a branch off of my story last week about the Mothman.
Ooh.
So can you guess what this story is about?
Is this going to be about the cool sheep thing?
The sheep squatch?
Yeah.
No sheep squatch today.
Oh, what were the other ones we talked about? We talked about a sheep squatch. We talked about...
Okay, we talked about the sheep squatch, the Grafton monster, the Flatwoods monster.
Oh, yeah, the big thing that looks like a giant sludge monster.
Yeah.
Not this. We're not talking about this one.
No, we're not talking about those.
Those are cool, though.
I know.
Are we talking about more stuff from West Virginia?
Sort of, yes.
Okay. Get a little closer. I don't know a lot about cryptids, though. That's really your area of expertise.
Okay. So, what if I sing a song to you?
Oh, you're going to sing with me?
Yeah, just fill in the blanks and what you think is that so this is like a little game show, okay?
Okay.
All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here come the...
You said here come,
here
and I hear here comes the bride.
Here come the...
Keep going.
Galaxy Defenders.
Oh,
Here come the...
Men in Black!
Yeah, there we go.
It took me a moment there. I had to dig back to like 1994 or 5.
1997.
Was it 97? I thought it was way earlier than I thought it was little when that came out.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, this is horrible. Men in Black are scary.
It's better than what you were talking about. Give me 1 sec, actually. Hold on a sec. That's right. I'm talking about the Men in Black.
All right.
And no, I am not talking about the hit movie from 1997 starring Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. I'm talking
it's a good
about
movie, though.
It's a fantastic movie. I love that movie so much. I'm talking about the real Men in Black, even though that song is still really good.
That's just...
and like I said, it's been stuck in my head.
Oh, is this what you were telling me about the other day?
Yes.
You were like, it's so hard.
It was so hard not to sing it because it's been stuck in my head all week, and I was like, I just want to sing it so bad.
Oh. Oh, I love it.
Okay, so this is also not a type of scary story, but it's but the Men in Black are so creepy that I found it interesting, so I had to cover it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the Men in Black are supposed to be men dressed in black suits who claim to be some type of government officials or government agents who try to cover up UFO sightings by harassing or threatening the witnesses. To keep quiet about what they've seen.
Well, you said last week that certain people who said they saw the Mothman also met Men in Black.
This is true. And I will get to that later.
I'm remembering.
Okay, good. So a tiny description about the Men in Black. I mean, there's not really much to go off of. So they're always dressed in a black suit. Actually, sometimes they are dressed in like a military wear as well.
Mm-hmm.
They lack human emotion.
In the one YouTube video I saw that supposedly had Men in Black, they were like real big.
Like tall?
Like taller than everybody else.
Yeah.
They were like walking into a building, and the other people that were near them were much shorter, and I'm just...
So most, at average, their heights are about 6 foot.
Okay, so you and taller.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they're mostly always male. But there are some cases of females as well. So women in black.
Ooh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah. And they have pale skin and exotic facial features. So there are I remember there was a case of one that was Asian Men in Black. So that's a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So before go ahead.
No, I just never heard of a woman in black. That sounds weird.
All right. So before I truly get into this, I'm just going to say that topics like Men in Black, there is so little on the web about them, so I can look them up. So I had to, do a really deep dive into a really great book. I'll tell you that later.
Analog.
Yeah, so I had to get into a nice book just to get some information about it. So what I'll be telling you for my segment are basically Men in Black encounters, accounts from people who have met the Men in Black. So that's hopefully that is good enough for you guys, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. There's also some theories about who the Men in Black are, and I'll be getting to that later as well. So without further ado, let's get into our first story. And it's a lot.
Ooh, pages.
Yes. Okay. So let's start our stories off with, this is basically the first reported or recorded information about the Men in Black.
Okay.
Okay, so, well, this is actually like the first person who may have seen a man in black, or Men in Black.
How far does this go back?
So this goes back to the 1940s, but I do believe that they have been around much longer.
Okay.
So let's talk about a man named Albert Bender.
Okay.
It's the 1940s. This guy was into strange or paranormal stuff. Like, he'd probably fit in with this time period. Like, he was into...
I thought you were going to say he fits in with us.
He does. So, like, he would look out into the sky with his telescope, trying to, like, catch a glimpse of a flying saucer. So his obsession began with the disappearance of Flight 19.
Okay.
Do you know what Flight 19 is?
No, I don't think I've heard of it.
Okay, Flight 19. So, goodness, what year is it? Okay, it's 1945. December 5th, 1945. 5 Avenger-class bombers, they were leaving, I think it was Florida, and they had disappeared over the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, okay. Okay, so one of those.
Yeah, so this is like I guess one of the first case of planes disappearing above the Bermuda Triangle. And that's another story altogether.
Bermuda Triangle stuff is very...
Yeah, that's it's all just, oh my god, is it a portal? Is it a portal somewhere? Do planes just lose, whatever. We'll get into that some other time. Okay, so he had an attic with his, I guess he lived in his stepdad's house, so he lived in the attic. So this is where he would look out into the sky with his telescope. So he painted the walls of his room with faces of creatures, like horrific nightmares creatures.
No, don't like it.
So he made it his little room of horrors. So in December of 1950, he starts getting really, really into flying saucers. He even got a group of people to create a network of UFO investigators. It's called the International Flying Saucer Bureau, or the IFSB.
Okay.
Now, the IFSB blew up. So UFO... Oh my god, I'm sorry. I can't write anything. So UFO disciples from all over the world started sending in reports of sightings to the IFSB, and a ton of people.
So I have to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Are you a believer, like the IFSB?
Of UFOs?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Do you believe it's like them, like Little Green Man and Flying Saucers, or do you think it's a little different?
I think it's different. I mean, they can't all be the same. I mean, we're not all the same.
Yeah, I think they'd be different too. I'm just really freaked out by the whole concept of the little gray men. Like, if I saw like a little gray person with the big head and the weird arms, I'd probably freak out.
Okay, you know what? You're being racist right now to aliens.
It's just those aliens. I like all the Star Wars aliens. They're all very unique and interesting.
Oh my god. What if no other alien looks like them?
That would be great. I don't know where the gray man idea came from, but it's creepy.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just had to think. I was like, how much do you believe in this? Before we dive into it.
Okay. Where was I at? Oh yeah, so a ton of people wanted to join as well. But
okay, IFSB is big news.
Yes. So Albert Bender's stay in IFSB, I can't even say it, I spelled it out so many times. So his stay wouldn't last long, and it's believed that the next account is the beginning of the end for him.
Oh.
So yeah. So July 30th, 1952, Bender gets an anonymous call. When he picks it up the phone, there is no answer, but he can tell that there's someone on the other line.
Mm-hmm.
He needs
Oh, those calls are the worst.
yeah, I know, right? You just hear someone, like, you can just tell someone's there.
Breathing.
Yes. Or maybe not even breathing, you just sense that someone's there.
Don't like it.
So his head starts to hurt, and he gets, like, a dizzy spell, so he hits the bed. After, like, this is him on the phone. Him being on the phone made his head hurt.
So is this like from the movie? They had, like, the little... what's the word? They had that little thing that messes with your eyes. Only this was his ears.
You're talking about the neuralizers?
Yes, like an ear neuralizer.
Not really.
Okay,
because
good.
that makes you forget. This one just wanted to cause him pain.
Okay.
All right. So after this event, days later, he's heading home from the movies. It's late at night, and he has this feeling that something malicious is following him.
Oh no.
He makes it home fine though. So he, like, nothing happens on his way home. So he's heading to his room in the attic, and he notices a weird glow coming from underneath the door in his room.
What?
Yeah. So
please, he didn't go in there, right? He just turned around and walked away. Hid in the bathroom or something?
No, he did not do that.
Oh.
Okay, so he flings the door open and is greeted to this view. So it automatically, like, as soon as he steps in, he gets the smell of sulfur, and he sees a bright shimmering object, like, hovering in his room. So let me just note that this man has OCD. He's really OCD about things, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to note that right real quick. So...
Do you mean he actually was OCD, or he was just really particular?
No, he was.
Okay.
I'm guessing he's really particular, but the book noted that he may have OCD as well.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, so as soon as he, like, opens the door, he sees the object. The object starts hurting his eyes. So, and I guess some reason this made sense to him in his head. He turns on his room light instead, and the shimmering object just disappears. So I mentioned he was OCD, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when he was in his room, he noticed that someone had been going through his IFSB files, and, like, he could just tell that someone was going through them because they were not where he had them last time. Like I said, OCD. So he's like, I know where I had this at. There should be nobody going in my room and touching my stuff right now.
Gotcha.
So, do you think Albert let these strange things stop him from living his life?
Probably not.
No. But that would just mean that it would come to bite him in the butt later.
Oh.
Okay, so he goes to the movies again. So he had a thing for sci-fi. He loved sci-fi movies. So
he's just getting his little double feature on.
Yeah, of course. I'm not sure what was out at this time. It's the, what did I say, 1950s? So whatever awesome sci-fi movies were out at that time, he was
probably
out
saw
there.
them all.
Yeah, he saw them. You bet he saw them all. So he's sitting, chilling, enjoying a movie, when he feels a strange dread and that he's being stared at. So out the corner of his eye, he spots a figure materialize near him. It's a guy dressed in dark clothes. And Arthur's... I keep saying Arthur. Have I been saying Arthur?
Albert.
Okay, good. His name is Albert. So Albert's head, his starts. I don't know why. I just thought I said Arthur for, like, a quick second.
You're good. No. Okay. You need to get back on the point that he saw something materialize, because I didn't think the Men in Black had magic powers, and so I'm very unsettled right now, and I need you to continue where you were.
Okay. So his Albert's head, it starts feeling dizzy again, like the day before, like a few days back when when he answered the phone. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And he's feeling nauseous, just like
right.
With the phone call. So he closes his eyes to relieve the stress and the pain, and then when he opens them, the man is gone. but he sees the man for a second time at the movies, and at this point, he just freaks out and leaves. He just like, I'm done. I'm getting out of here. I'm going home. No more movies today for me, please.
I don't like it. Oh.
So
it's just, I thought they were real people. Now they can materialize.
You don't know. You don't even know. You can't. I'm gonna get into it. So he would continue to see suited men for the next few months, and also continue to have dizzy spells as well. So reportedly, there was poltergeist activity, and that sulfur smell came back as well. So throughout these months, he had poltergeist activity, and he could still smell the sulfur.
I'm just saying, you said this wasn't gonna be scary, but I'm spooked right now.
It's not that scary. It's just very educational and very interesting. So this guy, he was going through a tough time at this point, and it would only get worse from there. So every time I stop at like a section, it only gets worse after that.
Oh, poor Albert.
Yeah. So one day, Albert is visited by not one, not two, but 3 men in black. So this guy is going through hell already. So he didn't really need to see all these motherfuckers, all these guys showing up.
Did they just show up at his house, or they knocked on the door?
They showed up at it. Okay, so they knocked. They knock on the door. They're like vampire rules, basically.
Well, not last time. The one time they were in his bedroom.
Okay, well, that wasn't a man in black. That was a shimmering object.
I don't know.
I don't know either. So maybe this time they just wanted to confront him, men to men.
Okay.
Yeah. So they tell him the dark truth of the UFO presence in our world. Now, why would they tell him this?
Because they're going to murder him.
Oh my God, you're so close. So they could threaten his life, of course. So they warn him.
Like every good bad guy in a movie.
Yeah, I know. So they warn him not to tell anyone what he was told under any circumstances, unless he, quote, had some... See...
Why is it so funny to you?
I don't know. It's just, I'm really giggly right now. I'm sorry. So,
okay, tell nobody unless...
He had some, quote, sadist wish to incur their immediate and deadly wrath, which he certainly did not.
So then how do we know about what happened here?
Obviously, he wasn't that scared.
Ah.
So, but Bender is scared for his life at this point. So he quits the IFSB and leaves his members with this message. We would like to print the full story in Space Review, which was a little zine they had for their members. But because of the nature of the info, we are sorry that we have been advised in the negatives. So we advise those engaged in saucer work to please be very cautious. So basically he's giving out a warning to all the members that, hey, there are guys out there. They will try to stop you. They will threaten you. They will follow you around. Be careful.
Right.
And this would be the first of many of the MIB stories. I like to say MIB, but the Men in Black stories. So there are many encounters like this one, but I have 2 more I want to share. They're my favorites. Okay.
So wait.
Yes.
Do you talk about the Dan Aykroyd situation?
No, I should have looked more into that one, but that's a good one too.
It was pretty simple. He was doing a TV show for like one of the networks, one of those real true life, supernatural shows.
Right.
And he noticed like a car, a black car with the people in it. And then like a day later, he got a phone call from the network saying, cancel the show. No one's gonna cover it. And I just such an interesting thought process that like somebody somewhere made a phone call and went, he's on to us.
Well, you know he's a ufologist, right?
Yeah, he's really into it. So I
Yeah.
assume that like maybe he was onto something where he was recording or whatever they were filming at the time, and they just told him and they shut it down. It's done. There's no funding. There's no nothing. You're done. Which is wild because he's a well-respected, well-known actor, so I can't imagine telling him no. That's another facet of that story that I find interesting.
You're right about that. Okay, so you remember the Mothman? You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
From last week? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I told you the MIB, the Men in Black were there to keep things hush-hush as well.
Right.
Well, this is one of my favorite ones that I read from the book, one of the encounters. Mm-hmm. Okay. Turn my page, get to my analog stuff. Okay. So it's January 1967. So this is like a year after, the first Mothman encounter. The first public Mothman encounter that went.
So is this before everything went the bridge smushed?
No,
or afterward?
I think this is after the fact.
Okay.
Or no, actually no, because it said the Mothman was there between 1966 and 1967. So I'm not sure. I don't have the date in my. I have it in my notes, but I just don't know where I have it.
So this is still before the big catastrophe happened. Okay. Just kind of I'm trying to get a frame of reference in my head.
Right. Okay. So Mary Heyer, a journalist in Point Pleasant, gets to have two strange encounters with the Men in Black. All right. The first one is, now this one is a rarity among Men in Black. It's a 5-foot-tall man. He has a bowl cut and hypnotic eyes.
Oh.
And there wasn't much about this encounter with him except for the fact that he was very intrigued by her ballpoint pen. And, before their interaction ended, she gave her ballpoint pen to him because she saw how interested he was in it. And once he got it, he gave out this like cackle like laugh and ran out the door.
That doesn't sound like she met a Man in Black. This sounds like she met an alien.
Something.
Who was like, look at this technology. Fun.
It's like, ooh, what is this strange object you have here? What is this for?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the first encounter.
Sounds fun. A little madcap.
Yeah. The second encounter. Well, the second weird one. Because I guess she had multiple encounters. This is just the second weirdest one that she had.
Okay.
So there are two Men in Black that looked Asian, and they looked like they were twins as well. So they came to the newspaper offices where she worked at. So they started talking about, UFOs and stuff. And one of them was like, a lot of saucer things in the sky, huh? And I was like, yep. And I imagine the MIB going, haha, I gotcha. We know you know about the UFOs. So...
Oh, goodness.
So then they begin to ask her things like, has anyone asked you to not publish the details of the activity? And she said no. And then they're like, okay, well, what if you were warned not to publish the details of this activity? And she goes, and I quote, straight from her lips, straight from the book. It says, I tell them to go to hell.
Ooh.
So then for a moment, she looks down at her paperwork, and then she looks back up to see that they're gone. So I guess they took her seriously, and they went to hell.
Huh.
Yeah.
That leaves me just more perplexed than anything else.
Yeah. It's just like all these encounters are strange. So, if you think the Men in Black are only men, well, I'd have to say that's backwards thinking. How dare you? Get the hell out of here. They're people in black, okay? There are indeed women in black suits encounters as well. And I swear, this one is the best one. This is like the best encounter I've read.
Okay.
So it's the year 2000. And, I did not look this up, but I'm pretty sure I got the pronunciation correct anyway. Glastonbury, England.
Mm-hmm.
A man named Colin Parks is obsessed with finding King Arthur's remains. And I guess it's considered Arthurian studies.
Okay.
He gets a call from a woman who wished to meet and speak with him about his Arthurian studies. He thinks to himself, that's strange because I haven't told a lot of people about this. Maybe 2 or 3 people about my research. So why is this random woman calling me out of nowhere? So they agree to meet at his place. 7 p.m. she arrives with a loud knock on the door. He opens the door to see a beautiful 6-foot, pale-skinned, possibly 40-year-old woman in a black suit.
Okay, so he was a shook.
Yeah. I mean, he invites her.
She got a booty dough?
What happened?
Sorry, I said, but do she got a booty dough?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm probably going to say she do. She do. Oh.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I don't mean to derail you with my debauchery.
So he invites her in, and they get down to business. She says she and her colleagues have been following his research for years. Poppycock, he says. I haven't published a thing, and no one knows of this. And with a cruel smile, she says, I do know all about you. So he's told, like, she even like goes back and tells him all of his research that she knows about, and this man is shooketh.
Oh no. Is he safe? Is he okay?
For now. So he's told that he must stop his research. King Arthur's resting place is also a doorway to a realm with nightmare creatures. So I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty sure you might. King Arthur's remains have not been found.
I didn't realize that. Do we think this is like a...
So he has a resting place. Like there's
like a memorial site.
I'm guessing, yeah. Like there's a resting place. It's in where do they call this place? Glastonbury, England.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's in England. It's in UK. And any of our UK listeners can confirm or refute this. I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure his remains have not been found. I did read an article that was from April 1st, so it was an April Fool's joke that his remains were found by a plumber.
Oh, yeah. that kind of stuff does happen. When it comes to geological digs and things of that nature, they do. I remember at some point in England, they were digging up a car park and they found a whole host of really important archaeological finds, but I feel like we would have heard if they had actually found King Arthur.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
So she says to him, this is his location is I'm sorry, an entry, a portal to Nightmare Land?
Yeah, basically.
And what does he say when she tells him this?
Well, she says it can't be open, and if he continued to do his research, he'd have another visitor, and he definitely did not want to upset this visitor. So, do you think...
What's he do?
Do you think he stopped his research after she had told him and gave him this warning?
No, but he should have.
Yeah, he didn't stop. He's like, well, this is not what he said, but this is what I speculate that he would say. I've come too far now to stop. Okay.
All right.
Okay. I'm sorry. God. Okay.
No, I'm just thinking about this.
It's 9 p.m. on a Saturday night. He's driving home. There are no cars on the road, which is particularly strange for this area because this is a busy area. But there is someone in the road though, or something. It looks like a man from where he's at, but as he slows down, he's like, "That ain't no man." It was a tall, pale, skinny, bat-like creature.
Oh no, it's the Mothman.
Not quite. It's like a more like a Batman, but like a mutant Batman. So it's a bat-like
Okay.
creature. So it had wings and everything.
So it was one of the nightmare monsters that they said they didn't want to take out of the
Yeah,
portal.
possibly. So Perks saw this thing and he hit the gas. He headed straight towards it, but as soon as he got close enough, it vanished.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's about a week later, early morning. Perks is woken up by, you guessed it, the monster he saw in the road.
Is it in his house?
In his house. It was standing over him as he was in his bed. So it grabbed his wrist, and it got real close to his face, and it said in a deep booming voice, "You were told that I would come." The warning the woman in black gave him, if he continued his research, it spoke to him telepathically. So it didn't even have to open his mouth. Like this, he gave the same warning to him that the woman in black gave to him.
Oh, thanks. I hate it.
So once again, he gave him a warning about,
what happens next?
Once again, he gives him a warning, or it gives him a warning about King Arthur's resting place, and then it's gone. So he stops his research for now. So Perks speculated that the woman in black and the creature were the same person, claiming that she was a shapeshifter who was upset after Perks wasn't heeding her warning. So she stooped to drastic measures and shapeshifted into this bat creature.
It's kind of cool, actually.
Yeah, I know, right? So like I said, he stopped looking for King Arthur's resting place for a while until he couldn't resist anymore. He was like, I need my drug. I need this. I need to go looking for King Arthur again. And he was looking until the day he died. He died of a heart attack.
Or so we think.
Or so we think. So there's another story about women in black, but I did not write that down. It's the same. It's almost the same because it's about a woman in black and a flying creature. So if it's the same woman, who knows?
I just love the idea of being a shapeshifter.
I know, right? It's really cool.
Not meeting one like her, but it's cool to think about being one.
Right. Okay. So now those are my stories. Now there are theories about what these enigmatic people are. They could be G-men, guys working with the government to keep things underground.
Which is what they've always kind of played it off as, just some hired goons.
Right.
But why the weird paranormal connection, though?
Or they could be demons.
Oh, no.
Right. Okay, so I only wrote down one of the theories, but okay, so some of the theories are G-men, demons, they could be hallucinations, they could be like just civilian people dressed up like this, or they could be hoaxes. Now,
okay, see, no one thinks they could be aliens.
None of these theories ended up as aliens.
I don't know why I think that like they are also like some of them might be aliens
You would think so, right?
working for us.
Just to keep things quiet.
Right.
Okay. So,
what do you think?
There's one theory that, well, I'll get to what I think later. There is one theory that I absolutely love, and this is actually a topic I was going to cover eventually sometime. This theory is that they're tulpas.
Continue.
Okay. So, you ever wonder why the Men in Black are so, I don't know, like weird? Like they were manifested for just a single purpose, and that's to stop people from learning about UFOs.
Okay.
And that, like, they don't have common sense. Like that, like the story I said about the one who was interested in a pen. Like, he didn't know what the heck a pen was. Like, he acted like he didn't know what a pen was.
Right.
Like, they don't have basic knowledge, like common sense knowledge. They just have the knowledge of what they should be.
Okay.
Okay. So, so they're called tulpas. So, what the heck are tulpas, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, originating in Tibet, the language is, so I guess a Tibetan, I don't know what you would call them. I guess a monk.
Monks, yeah.
Okay. So, tulpas are an entity or being that attained some form of meaningful reality after being conjured up solely from the imagination of the conjurer. So, basically, if you have enough mental power, you can create something from your thoughts into reality.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine the Men in Black or tulpas. Now, there's a case I read in the book. It's about, I don't know the woman's name, but she created a tulpa. It was of a monk. It was a fat monk. Think of Friar Tuck from Robin Hood.
Okay.
So this is how it was described in the book as well. So she creates this monk tulpa, and he's basically like, I want to say he's something that she can see, and he can, I guess, interact with the world around him as well. Because I guess she reported that, she could feel that he touched her shoulder at one point and stuff like that, and the horses would recognize him as well. And later on, she notices that he's changing in appearance. He's getting a little skinnier. His attitude is changing from that of, like, a quiet monk to someone who's sassy or stuff like that. So she tries to get rid of him because she knows that he's changing, and he's like trying to break. So basically, he's trying to break free from
the hold she has on him.
Yeah, so he's trying to break free from, like, her mental space, and he tries, but, like, because he knows that she's trying to get rid of him now. So she eventually does this, and she can conjure him away back into her mind, and that's the end of that. And I've actually read, like, a creepypasta about something like this, tulpas too, and the ending did not end well for the other person. So imagine that the Men in Black were tulpas that broke free from the conjurer's grip, and he took on a life of their own.
But why would they work for the government?
So, who says they're working for the government? Who says they can't just be regular, like, just tulpas out with a mission to stop people from learning about UFOs? They're just their own society, I guess, of tulpas. And like Albert Bender, the first guy from the story, he could have planted the thought in people's heads that there are men in black suits out there who will stop you or try to stop you from learning about UFOs and flying saucers and paranormal activity and stuff like that.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So just thinking about, like, all those minds thinking about this single thing, all that mental power, that could create the Men in Black Tulpa.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. All right. So that's why this one is like very interesting. There's also another theory that they are vampires as well.
Oh gosh.
But they've been seen during the day, so I'm not sure.
Every video I've seen, they walked into a building during the daytime.
Yeah. But yeah, them being tulpas is just it's just the best, because tulpas are just, they're fascinating to me. And
that could be interesting to look into more in depth.
Right. And that's all I have for the Men in Black this week.
Well, definitely really interesting.
Right? I kind of got really, really into it at the end there.
No, that's awesome.
Oh, because we're talking about tulpas. And I'm like, something I can create from my mind that could manifest if I focus enough. But yeah, those are...
I don't think that's something people should be trying to do. Sounds like a bad idea.
At one point, I think it was brought up that maybe I'm not going to a certain tall, skinny, faceless man in a suit was a tulpa as well.
Oh gosh. That's the connection you were making, Slender Man.
Oh. Hey, the Men in Black haven't been known to kidnap children in the forest, but hey, you never know.
Oh dear. Well, we had a long journey tonight, didn't we, everyone?
Yeah, we had
through the awful mind of the Ken and Barbie Killers and their reality into the, I don't know if it's reality or not, of the Men in Black situation.
Well, in reality, they are considered a conspiracy theory as well. So, who knows?
It's just so many unanswered questions when it comes to that sort of thing.
Right? Exactly.
As for us, hopefully next week we will not be snowed in, so we'll be back together to record our Valentine's Day podcast.
Yes.
Ooh. I have a good one ready for you all next week.
I don't yet. I will have it ready.
One that I think that's a little bit more on the funny side than the devastatingly sad side, like this week.
Yay! Absolutely.
But on our way out, I would love to say thank you to our sponsors, which are the Magic Clasp, who are making our serial killer earrings that'll be coming out soon this February, and also to Anchor.fm for hosting this podcast and getting us up and running with ease. And we also want to say, if you would love to send a message to us, you can just go to anchor.fm/whenkillersgetcaught and you can leave a voicemail. And if we get one that we like and it's interesting, we will play it during our podcast for you.
Yes, I can't wait.
Like every week, if you would like some extra content about some kind of killers, I have committed to discussing a serial killer from every state in the United States. So that's another 50 videos on TikTok.
Oh my goodness.
Which is called Caught Podcast. I've only posted 2 so far. Probably by the time this comes up, there'll be at least 10 to 12 of them. So that's something you can look into.
Nice.
But just signing off to everybody in serial killer country. We hope you have a great week coming up. And we can't wait to tell you more about, or I can't wait to tell you more about some of our killer couples.
And I can't wait to tell you about more creepy things.
Good night.
Good night.